fucking hate you.
You are watching a master at work.
So talking about Mike D'Antoni bringing that 7-second offense to Brooklyn is a very high possibility with him coaching Steve Nash back in Phoenix. Probably had that same type of offense. I'm not 100% sure on that. I didn't really pay attention too much to basketball at that time. But because Nash is a first-time head coach, he has done coaching, but relatively recent with the Warriors. But it was mostly coaching one-on-one with players, not coaching a team and creating a system for that team. So he'll probably lean heavily on his former head coach.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think now D'Antoni's coaching style has changed from the 7-second to an ISO ball, since we've seen with James Harden. But I think now he can take a back seat and kind of advise his former player to, make your own decisions. And, he may harp on, that 7 seconds with how fast and how skillful both KD, Kyrie, and the rest of the Brooklyn depth chart is. But at this point, I think it is Steve Nash's call throughout the entire playbook.
We'll probably see a lot of change over the season. As I said, this is Nash's first head coaching opportunity, so he'll probably rely heavily on former head coaches he has on his staff and see what their input is.
100%. Kind of already answered this question, but do you see Steve Nash taking what he learned from MDA or Mike D'Antoni, and implementing it into his offense? We kind of actually answered that already. So I think the next question is, how do you think Kyrie and Durant feel about the fill position for the assistant coach being Mike D'Antoni?
No, who knows, really? They've been talking a lot. I'm sorry we have not heard anything from them. But it probably would not hurt them too much because they're both relatively high scorers. They shoot in volumes. So it probably would not hurt them too much. It might even improve their stats slightly with the ability to shoot more.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just seems like that they really don't care about the coaching staff, in my perspective. And it's just they're going to go hoop, they're going to go do what they want. They're going to go win games, hopefully. And we'll see what they do.
To be honest, it almost sounds like some street ball pickup games that they're going to be doing. But with like Steve Nash restricting minutes, that's relatively it.
Yeah. Let's move on to news across the Brooklyn Bridge into the main mecca of New York. New York Mets were recently purchased, and the MLB approved it by Steve Cohen, known billionaire.
Yes, hedge fund manager right there.
Purchased for $2.4 billion. However, one of the more excruciating things would be the $100 million loss due to COVID and due to the reduced season. Hypothetically, would you have paid that much for the Mets, Kris?
Well, we know sports teams are expensive. We saw the sales of multiple teams over the past few years. Most notably, we have, not most notably, most recently, we have Miami being sold to Derek Jeter's group, and that was for a few $1 billion. I'm looking it up right now. But sports teams are always increasing year to year, even with the loss of COVID. This deal was being finalized last year, so there was no real big change over the year. Sure, the MLB did lose $100 million, but that was also shared between 30 different clubs, so it didn't really hurt too much.
Mm-hmm. Would you have paid $2.4 billion for the New York Mets? Just hypothetically. Personally, I don't think I would.
Well, how many opportunities you get to own a major league team?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would have paid that much for the Yankees, maybe a little bit more, but I would not.
The Yankees are worth over $10 billion.
Again, this is hypothetically.
The Yankees would be look at your offer like, come back in a few more years.
personally, I probably wouldn't
Yeah.
have gone over 1.5 billion if I was Steve Cohen. But
Derek Jeter Group bought the Marlins back in 2017 for $1.2 billion.
in that Miami market, wow, I'm surprised I didn't go up more.
Well, Miami market is kind of smaller than the New York market.
That's true. That's true. I mean, there's more sports. There's more of
Yeah.
a sports culture with the Knicks. Oh my God, there's Brooklyn, and then the two football teams, and there's two hockey teams up there too, right? Or is it just
I can only think of one, but if we look at like the top percentage of like biggest markets, we have the LA market, followed by the New York market, and then we have smaller ones, which is Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, like the Bay Area there. So we can see why it's up higher because of that huge media market they have. And if the Mets somehow come back and start bringing home some championships or even going deep in playoff runs, you'll see that number being like a cheap number for them.
if you were Steve Cohen and you just acquired this team, what do you think like your first move would be, like as the owner and like talking to your GMs and all the other owners within the Mets organization? What do you think your first move would be?
Lock up Syndergaard.
Hmm. Why?
Generational pitcher right there, has a Cy Young. He could be that cornerstone of your team right there for years to come. We know he's relatively young. Um, so you always want to lock up those key pieces if you're trying to compete for a championship.
Yeah, build around your pitcher or that one pitcher and
Build around your superstar.
okay. If you were a part of the MLB board and you saw that 100 million, I know it's spread over all the teams, but if you saw that $100 million revenue loss, where does that fall in your concerns of priorities as shareholders? Yes.
Well, it is a big loss, but if we look deeper into this, recently TBS and Turner Sports have just signed a mega extension with the MLB, so that you'll see a big boost with that. Turner just signed a deal this past September that will last until 2028. This deal is worth $3.2 billion over 7 years, so an average about $470 million a year, which is a 40% uptick from the previous deal.
Who else besides the MLB network? Who else do they have TV partnerships with?
So, for the national media coverage, so bringing up national contracts, so they have three big contracts right now. I just mentioned Turner Sports. Right now, they're going to be finishing the last year of the previous contract, which was worth $325 million, and they're going to be starting the next contract in 2022, which is worth $3.2 billion over 7 years, as I said. We have Fox Sports, which carries a lot of things. They carry like the World Series and a few playoff games, and also the All-Star game. So they just signed another 7-year deal extension back in 2018. That extension will pay out $5.1 billion over those years, which is an average of $700+ million a year. Then ESPN, which is signed through until 2021, which was a $5.6 billion deal they had from 2013 to 2021, which was $700 million per year. They are in talks of extending that, so we might see a close to 10. Rumors are having it maybe worth 7 billion plus for a contract, and they may be averaging over $1 billion a year for that contract. And then you also have to look into regional contracts, which are longer term deals. Most notably, we have like the two LA markets, uh, grossing over like 100 million a season on the local TV markets.
So
So
that's
their revenue streams are still relatively good. We do know that ticket sales and concessions, all that, is 40% of their revenue streams.
yeah.
But I don't think 1 year is going to hurt them too badly. It might hurt them a tad bit in signing contracts in the future, but I feel like we'll see a bounce back in the next couple of years.
Was that $7 billion and to make $1 billion a year. Was that ESPN only, or was that?
That would be just through ESPN.
Holy shit! So
That
basically,
is talks, but there's nothing confirmed yet right now. That's what people are saying, that they should market, because they're already worth contract right now is $5.6 billion.
so basically, they made their money back. I mean,
They'll make their money back easily.
oh yeah, 100%. So this is probably not as high, but I wouldn't put it past like a number 10 like issue is like, all right, we have $100 million in debt or lost revenue, sorry, not debt. And all these contracts are coming up and it's like, we're making $1 billion from here, blah, 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 blah. So
yeah, you might see some things in the when they renew their contracts with the MLB union. But I don't think it's going to hurt them relatively too bad, as this will be pulled across all the teams.
yeah.
So it's not a huge loss. It does hurt some businesses, like if the majority of their ownership is just for the team, and don't have diversified accounts.
Yeah.
Which the MLB has a lot of diverse accounts, as we see majority of them owning their own regional or a piece of the regional network. Most notably, the Yankees own their own channel on TV, the Yes Network.
Yeah. So let's move on to NCAA football. As I want to say, the poster child for NCAA football right now, Trevor Lawrence is out with COVID-19. And in terms of NCAA rules, he has to be, not NCAA, ACC rules, he has to be isolated for a 10-day period, which will put him out of action. So he had COVID from last week, Wednesday, missed the Boston College game this past Saturday, and will be out for the Notre Dame game this coming Saturday. The one thing I kind of want to talk about before we move on to Trevor Lawrence was that kind of comeback against Boston College when I think it was the second quarter or before the half. They were down, I think, by half of Boston College's total score before the half. So do you think that they need Trevor Lawrence in terms of scoring, or do you think that the Clemson's defense needs to build up a little bit? This is just my view from how I saw that.
Yeah. Looking back, they were down 28-13 at half. But the defense really stepped up live in the second half, posting a shutout there. So the defense does need to step up. The offense was probably out of rhythm in the beginning because of the whole switching quarterbacks. As the second string probably didn't have much reps with the first team offense prior to last Wednesday. So it just took a little bit of time to get the team back in rhythm. It will hurt them when they face the number 4 ranked team right now, Notre Dame. So it will. We'll see this weekend how the switch will. This whole switch of quarterbacks right now. Do you think this will cause not the ACC, but Clemson a chance at the national title because of Trevor Lawrence's absence?
Yeah, because you still have Ohio State, who's now number 3. Shouldn't have been number 3 in the AP polls. No,
we don't have AP polls yet. I'm just shocked like that. I'm just not. I don't like that.
No, yeah, I don't like it either. I mean, Ohio State's number 3, Bama's number 2, but they're 6-0, and I mean, I understand that. But Ohio State is number 3, pushing back Notre Dame to number 4 when they were rightfully so number 3. So I think they will get pushed out depending on how good their defense is for that Notre Dame game, and how well and how quickly their offense can adjust without Trevor Lawrence, because they adjusted slow during this past Boston College game and came back. But for a top contender like Notre Dame, it's uncertain what the outcome would be, but I don't see them making a national championship if they lose this weekend. That's just my take.
Yeah, it's a big change when you take out the number 1 overall pick, probably. Trevor Lawrence, the guy that has brought this team to 2 national championships in his freshman and sophomore years. So he was. I don't know if you also noticed this, but Trevor Lawrence is also out, not totally out of the running, but it's pushed back a lot from the Heisman chances.
Justin Fields is above him now.
Justin Fields is probably above it, but the number one is right now Alabama's quarterback.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised by that. But I mean, yeah, it does hurt his stock for the Heisman. But I mean, at the end of the day, this kid needs to get healthy. Um, and then he just needs to come back and will his team back to hopefully making another national championship appearance. Um, as for the Heisman, it I don't think this hurts him because he is sick or has contracted the virus, so it's not his fault. Um, but when he comes back, I think he'll still be in the running against the Alabama quarterback in Justin Fields. Um, do you think? Um, well, we kind of just talked about it, but do you actually think that they will win their second national championship in 3 years if he were to when he comes back after he comes back?
I believe so. We've seen them really dominate with him in that system. I could easily see them host the national championship again if they're able to make it into that game or even making it into the playoff picture.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this kid from freshman year to now his junior year has just been phenomenal. Um, two back-to-back national championship appearance, one national championship win. So I'm kind of rooting for Clemson to win this year. If it's against Ohio State, Godspeed. I will definitely be throwing on a goddamn orange and white jersey that day and not be rooting for Ohio State that game.
Definitely.
So also this past weekend, um, a major announcement within the LGBTQ community. Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. Sue Bird, a WNBA player, and Megan Rapinoe, U.S. Women's National Team forward. I want to say, can't remember. I think she's a forward.
Sure.
I think she's a forward. They tied the knot. They were on vacation, and Megan Rapinoe popped the question. They're Sue Bird and Rapinoe have been dating since 2016. What do you think? Okay, outside of sports, what do you think of the LGBTQ community as a whole? Just your opinion.
What do you mean?
Like what it stands for. Yeah, let's go with that.
Equality?
Okay, thank you. Now, I had this article. There was an article written for the NCAA and in support of the LGBTQ community, and it's going to take a while for me to bring it up. But I'll bring it up right now. But some of
Yeah.
the some of those athletes that identify as LGBTQ is Billie Jean King, who was a famous tennis player who played against other men in the 60s.
Yep.
Say. Renee Richards, who is a transgender tennis player as well. Michael Sam, who came out as openly gay during the NFL draft, and 4 years ago, right?
Say 6.
6. So there's also him. Ryan Russell, I think, was also a football player. This is all coming from memory. So Ryan Russell, Ryan O'Callahan, who is definitely a football player. Obviously, Megan Rapinoe, Sue Bird, Robbie Rogers, Jason Paul Collins, Cheryl Swooper, Patricio Manuel, Orlando Cruz, Fallon Fox, Glenn Burke, Caitlyn Jenner, and Adam Rippon, who was scrutinized for being a part of the LGBTQ community and being openly gay about it during the Winter Olympics. I think that was in 2015. 2015. Yeah, the 2015 Winter Olympics. So obviously some of these are openly gay and some of these are transgender. When it comes to, I hate talking about this because it just seems unfair from my perspective since I'm not a part of that community. But when it comes to gender and competition from those that are switching from men to women or women to men, and they have to take special hormone blockers or advancements, like what is your take on that, Kris?
Again, what do you mean?
Just like, I don't know. How do you How do you see that either being a problem or being a plus within inclusivity?
I don't know how really to answer that question.
Damn. I thought we would actually have a genuine conversation about this.
I'm uncomfortable. I can talk about this off record.
No, we'll talk about it on. I think to me, when it comes to men switching to women's, I think it's not entirely unfair, but I think it's like partially unfair because they still have like, if they aren't taking the amount of hormone blockers, you know what I mean? That is suggested in order for testosterone to not be a factor within competition. I think that's unfair. But when it goes from men to women, or sorry, women to men,
Yeah.
I think it's really unfair because not only are you adding testosterone, but you're having men compete against a former woman who didn't have testosterone in her system in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like
I know
it's
you're
a it. I just don't know what the word to say. Like, I just feel kind of not screw. I'm just saying it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not saying they're weird or anything. Like, I don't really care that much. Like, if whatever you want, like it's you, your body. You know what you like. But I don't know. It is weird. Like, you do have like those weird like okay. Um, I don't know. I honestly can't figure out the words.
obviously between gender and competition. There's always going to be like a scrutiny no matter what. And with the opposite from women going to men, you can everyone's going to also say, oh, she's putting drugs in her body. She's putting testosterone advancements in her body. And it's like, well, she has to because she's competing against men who are physically, hormonally superior than her. Or, sorry, yeah, sorry, superior than they are. Gotta use my pronouns. But there's always going to be like a directive to bash LGBTQ athletes, and for me, I don't think. I mean, everyone. I see people getting better at it, but like for the people that just don't like them for just being them, I think they're the problem. Um, yeah, this just got harder, didn't it, Kris?
Yeah, yeah, it did. That's why I told you I was uncomfortable. Like this is a not like a soft like a subject that we don't want to talk about. But just like I honestly don't know what kind of words to use because like if they want to compete, they could compete. Sure, go ahead, whatever. But just like what words do I have to use to talk about it?
Mhm. So I found the article that I was talking about between the or that is posted on the NCAA, and it has mind, body, and sport harassment and discrimination LGBTQ student athletes. It goes over like how they're supporting LGBTQ athletes, campus climate within athletics. That's just the header for the topic, and then how athletic departments can help. Obviously, you can go to your coaches and other administrators within athletics and talk about your situation and make sure they understand and make sure they know. There's another one that I saw. There's also other school resources as well. I think this by the NCAA. I forget. I don't know when this was written, or yeah, but it's always been in there. But I think this by the NCAA just shows how much they're inclusive in, which the NCAA has always been one of those hotspots for unethical actions. But I feel like this is one step in the right direction, as always. Yeah, I know I made Kris uncomfortable 100% with this conversation.
You also started to get uncomfortable. Like you trying to have some tough time with the words.
Just trying to find the words, like trying to be politically correct.
Exactly.
That
Exactly. Just
yeah, and like not to sound like I love having them around because it just brings another perspective in. But having to add that into sports and then all the controversies behind it, it's like now I'm just trying to not dig myself a hole to be buried in. But it is always good to talk about it and make sure that everyone knows about it. Um, so today, guys, we have another guest, and this is just part one of our podcast. And now part 2 coming up now.
The 53-man roster piece. And that was obviously some time ago because what are we in week 8, week 9? I'm not sure where we're at exactly. I know the Raiders are 4-3, so they've played 7 games, had the bye week, so 8 weeks in.
Yep.
And I did a 53-man roster prediction piece before, and usually I like to think I'm very accurate or close to being perfect on those because you have the preseason, and then you get to see different clips coming out of training camp. But everything this year was completely different. So yeah, that's kind of where that was. It wasn't very accurate this year.
Speaking of the 53-man roster, we have the clip that you posted on your Instagram right here, and with your permission, we would like to play it right now just to hear what your thoughts were at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is what got me a lot of flack on Twitter.
You have Darren Waller, Foster Moreau, of course. Derek Carrier, you have Jason Witten being cut.
I do. Yeah. So when I looked at this tight end room, they potentially, who knows, maybe they carry a 4th tight end, and a lot of people might be like, well, why don't they just cut Derek Carrier and keep Jason Witten? Well, for me, Carrier he's a reliable blocker. He's an excellent special teams player. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for it, but he's also very, he's he can catch the ball well, as we saw against the Steelers a couple years ago. He had the game-winning catch, a huge catch on that drive. So he's another guy. I love that you could throw him the ball. But when you look at, statistically speaking, Darren Waller, he's Mr. Reliable, played in all 16 games last year, 117 targets, 90 receptions, over 1,000 yards. Then you look at what Witten was able to do in 2019, albeit 38 years old, he could still produce 63 catches. He did only have 4 touchdowns. So I look at what would Witten bring to this team as far as his input in stats, and he would really have to cut into the play of Darren Waller. And from my perspective, Waller is so young and already shown how capable he is that I don't really see how that's going to better the team enough to keep a guy like Witten. And then furthermore, you look at the rookie last year, Foster Moreau. He only appeared in 13 games, only caught 13 passes, but he had 13 passes on 21 targets, but he had 5 touchdowns. So he proved that in the red zone, he is more than reliable. So it's almost like, what is really the need for Witten? Obviously, you could talk terms of the X's and O's and having a guy like a future Hall of Famer in that tight end room to work as a mentor.
Well, we stop right there. I don't follow the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas.
Come on, Micah.
Did they actually keep Witten? And is he starting?
Yeah. Well, so they kept him, and it was kind of one of the things I alluded to on there was they kept 4 tight ends in their tight end room, and I do a podcast with Matt Fallon and a guy who writes for the same website as I do. And we kind of have this running joke now that like Jason Witten, he's good for 1 or 2 catches every game. And it's usually like almost a catch that doesn't even mean anything, where it's like 1st and 10 and he catches a 2-yard little out route. And then that's his production for the game. But he obviously does a lot more than that because you have young tight ends like Foster Moreau and Darren Waller that he's able to mentor and stuff like that. He's effectively a coach with pads on out there. So it's great to have a future Hall of Famer like telling your guys like what's up. But yeah, I definitely didn't think he was going to make the team just simply based on the fact that they had young talent already there, and it's already slim pickings when you only have 53 guys you can keep. But I'm not a football executive. I'm just a journalist.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. I have the Las Vegas depth chart, courtesy of ESPN. They actually have Jason Witten listed as the 2nd string right now. Did you have? This is something you didn't see coming, right?
Yeah, kind of. 2nd string, like that kind of made sense. Just because Darren Waller was so good last year. It's like the only way that a guy like that gets bumped is if by some miracle they bring in George Kittle or Travis Kelce. But yeah, certainly didn't expect to see him on the depth chart at all.
Yeah. God, I had a question. Oh, in the in the realm of the SID world, what were some that were said to you in that prediction?
Those that heard about it thought I was crazy. But literally, like
I think most people did, except I had a close friend of mine that I went to college with at Jessup. And shout out Jacob Miller. And at first, when I told him, he's like, "All right, what are some of your bold predictions?" And I told him, "I'm like, yeah, like, bro, I got them cutting Witten." And he's like, "Okay." He texted me back like, "You're just looking for clout on Twitter, like blah blah blah." I'm like, "Nah, man. Like, here's the radio clip. Hear for yourself. Like, I'm not looking for clout. I've got reasons." And then he still disagreed with me, but he's like, "Okay, like after hearing the logic behind how you felt, okay." He's like, "I see where you're coming from." He's like, "You're not just some like attention whore on Twitter. Like, oh, give me attention, give me clicks. Like, I'm not about that."
That's funny. So before you came to Menlo as game day operations slash SID, which I think was kind of weird on the athletics part to kind of include whatever. I knew you as just the Jessup women's basketball assistant. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so yeah, I was an assistant SID with Jessup, but like I worked a lot with the women's basketball team.
And you're also a middle school coach. Am I correct?
So I coached a varsity high school team last year, but it was my alma mater. Unfortunately, the high school closed down, and then now going into this year, I'm coaching a JV team in Sacramento.
But you're also a hooper as well.
I am. So I played on the varsity team at my high school for 4 years, and then went to college just kind of with the mindset of like, okay, like my career's done, like, and I was okay with that. Like, I'm gonna just play in men's city league, like that's cool. Well, then it's freshman year of college, and I'm getting to meet all my new friends in the dorms and whatnot. And the guy right next to me in the room, right next to me, I'm asking like, yo, like, what do you do? What are you studying? And he mentioned that I'm on the JV basketball team, and I just kind of looked at him like, we're in college, like, there's a basketball team or there's not. Like, I don't get what you're talking about. And then I went to another guy in the dorms, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm on the varsity team, blah blah blah." And I'm like, are we in high school? Like, this is college. Like, what's going on? And then I go back to the guy that said he was on JV. I'm like, "Yo, like JV varsity? Like, what are we doing here?" And that's when I found out a lot of colleges have like JV programs, and you could play on them all 4 years. And they play other JV programs, like Simpson has one, and they play junior colleges and like almost like semi-pro men's teams, military bases and stuff. And so once I found out about that, I was like, yo, like I need to be on this. So then I talked to the coach, and by this point it was too late to try out for them freshman year. But I made it as a walk-on sophomore year, and then played 2 years on that. But then Jessup ended up closing or ending that program or the team. But it was dope to be able to say like, yo, I played college basketball for 2 years, and it was a ton. We were not a very good team. I think we won like 3 games in the 2 years that I played. But like at the end of the day, like I know this sounds so weird because I'm the most competitive person. I didn't really care. I was just so stoked that like, yo, like I'm on a college basketball roster. Like that's what's up.
Yeah, that's sick. Unfortunately, we only played once, like at Menlo, and you
Yeah.
really didn't get to like show off your skills. And it's not your fault. I mean, in comparison to the guys that we play with, you do have a smaller stature and a smaller size, but you use it to your advantage. So what do you like to do the most? Do you like to shoot? Do you like to drive? Like, what are your tendencies on the court?
So let's see. Let's see. So are you guys aware? I'm going to list 2 basketball players. First off, you guys have to know who Jimmer Fredette is,
Yes.
right? Okay. So I've been watching basketball since I was in diapers, but when I saw him playing at BYU, I was like, that's my guy. Like, that's my guy. Like, that is how I play basketball. I live and die by the 3. But unfortunately, his NBA career flamed out, and he's balling big time out in China right now. But currently, Duncan Robinson on the Heat. Actually, I have his jersey sitting right in front of my computer.
Chris, that's not
By far my favorite player. What's that?
playing now, really?
Yeah, unfortunately.
We need to see
But,
it.
I saw a stat on him that I forget the exact number. It was like 80 or 90 something percent of the field goals that he took were 3-point attempts. Like the dude does not shoot inside the 3-point arc. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's totally me. Like whenever I'm playing like pickup ball, like any type, if it's a men's league game, even when I was playing collegiately at Jessup, I would tell my teammates, yo, if we get it on a fast break, I'm going to the corner 3-point line, and if you want to pass it, that's where Kris is going to be. Like, I'm spotting up. And that's actually how I got my first collegiate bucket. Was we got a steal. I went down to the corner and beat the defense back, pump faked the guy, and then hit the three. And it was kind of one of those. My coach is like, "Go for the lit." Oh, he hit the three. Okay.
So you're not driving into paint anytime soon, huh?
I wouldn't say the paint, but my floater game is strong.
I like it.
Mid range. It's like a mid range teardrop thing I do.
Nice. So as you said, well, you're from Placerville, which is right awesome. But you went to William Jessup University, which is in Sacramento. I want to say Sacramento.
It's in Rockland. It's close to Sac. It's all in the Sac area.
But Folsom is outside of the Bay, but a little bit eastward towards Nevada. How was the change from living in Folsom and Placerville? Two areas. Well, only the one area that I know is Folsom. But how was it growing up there and then going to William Jessup in Sac? And like, how was that dynamic and how did that change? Or how was?
Yeah, Placerville is a lot more of like redneck and like you got your big trucks and like that. And so like that's like kind of like what I grew up around. And not that like I'm not some like got my truck and flannel and redneck, but like I'm definitely used to that vibe. Like that's what I'm used to. And then kind of made my way down the hill a little bit to Jessup, and now where I'm at in Folsom, and it's a lot more of like just regular like city life. But then going to Menlo and being in the Bay for a little bit, that was where the big like just culture shock, I guess you could call it, of everything, like just the city life and all that. And then, dude, the one thing I miss my job wholeheartedly at Menlo. Like I would go back in a heartbeat. I loved working there, and full time it was just awesome. But that said, city driving, man, oh no, that is not cut out for me. Like if we're going anywhere, like I'm catching a ride. You know that because I got a ride with you a few times.
Dude, it's just driving around like that. That was the reason why I didn't want a car up there. Is like driving up there takes so damn long and everything is so damn far in comparison to where I am here in Hawaii. And you can kind of like it's like up in Folsom and Placerville is like country. That's what I can.
Oh, totally.
That's what it is here too. Is like everything is close by. You don't need to go anywhere far. But when I first went up to the city, I was like, everything's so fucking far. Like I don't have a car.
Yeah.
Walk, and I don't want to catch a train. And it's like, but you get used to it.
And a lot of it isn't even like necessarily far as in like mileage. So for instance, when I was staying, I was staying at a friend's house when I was working at Menlo, and mileage wise, their house was like, I think like 20 miles away or something. So like driving normally, like from like, it would have been like 20 minutes or something like that. From like, if you go 20 miles outside of where I'm at in Folsom to like where I used to live in Placerville, it doesn't take very long. But when I go back to their house after a game at Menlo, it would sometimes take an hour and 20 plus just to get there because of so much traffic and just city driving. Don't like it.
Yeah, Kris is shaking his head and no one can see.
Yeah.
You're from Benicia. I mean, you have to cross what 2-3 bridges going into SF or going around on the 680.
Yeah, it's 2 bridges to San Francisco, and like I also spent a little bit of my time living in San Francisco with my grandparents whenever like my parents both worked there. So we know like just getting from like where they lived anywhere was either at least a 20-minute drive, even if it was like a mile away. Like we'd rather just like almost walk if it's under a mile.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's how it was at Menlo. It's like you have Starbucks like literally down the road. Santa Cruz Ave. Shout out to Santa Cruz Ave having everything that I literally went there for: a Walgreens and a Starbucks. That was it. And also Chase Banking. But if it was like walking distance, boom, I'm walking. Stanford was walking distance, but it took like 30 minutes for me to walk there. So I usually would take the train. Whenever I like the train, it was on the weekend, so the train ran late. I would just walk. I would have to wake up at like 5-6 o'clock in the morning and just start like walking there, and in the cold, no jacket, and I'm like not pissed, but more so I'm just thinking of like, why the fuck don't I have a car? Why don't I have a bike? just getting down on myself. But let's move back to you, Kris. So you work for, or wrote for USA Today as a sports writer. How did that come up?
So originally, how that started was I was applying to what I wanted to do on my resume was beef up like stuff that I've done for companies for like social media, and I applied to. I was going to be running a Twitter account for what was called the Eagles Wire. They're like the USA Today affiliate that covers the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's kind of just what I thought I was going to do. Well, in the middle of that interview, it was over the phone. The guy's getting a kind of a feel for me. I sent him my resume, and he's like, "Yeah, like you could totally do this, but you definitely are more slated like to write. Like I think you're like we would benefit more from you, and you would benefit more from us, like if you were writing." I'm like, "All right, like," and I'm sitting there like freaking out, like, "Whoa, like this is like the USA Today, like what the heck?" And then so he got me connected with the guy who at the time ran the Raiders Wire. And I try not to slander anyone, but let's just say he's not the nicest of guys, at least at that point in time. He's no longer in the journalism game. He was fired by the Raiders Wire. So yeah, that's that. But I learned a lot. Wrote for them. It was a terrific experience as far as writing goes. But it was also like a wake up call to like just this industry and how like people not only can be two-faced, but they can be vindictive, they can be liars, they can be manipulative, and it's just kind of like, whoa, like you really got to be careful like who you want to open up to, which it's sad to say because it's like at the end of the day, like I love what I do as a journalist, but like ultimately our job matters, but it doesn't because the people don't care about us, they care about what we're reporting on. So it's like people got to like lose the ego, like you're not the one that matters, it's the person you're reporting on that does. And that's what I learned there. So like ultimately for the learning experience and the exposure, it was awesome. But I am more than happy with the two Raider websites that I'm currently affiliated with.
Yeah, I kind of find myself in that little pit hole too of trying to just trying to like let go of my ego whenever I do this, and it's like I
Mm-hmm.
can't seem like I know everything. And same thing for Kris. Like we don't know everything. Like we just like talking about sports, and we like just talking and giving our takes. And it's not like we know better. It's more so just we kind of want to know more from different viewpoint from a different viewpoint from one another.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we don't write, and that's why we just talk and use our voices instead of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes sense. Um, so you use that skill set and learning that skill set to go to both William Jessup as an assistant and Menlo College. How big of an impact was that experience on your two positions at two separate colleges?
Like with what I went through with the USA Today, it was big because it taught me a lot of things, but two things that I can touch on here is that regardless of who you're working with and who you're working around, you control what you do and how hard you're going to work and what you want to do. And it also taught me like how to work with difficult people. And I won't say names, but right before I came to Jessup, there was a difficult person that we had to work with at my alma mater, and it made things difficult, but like it also made me a better person and a better worker through those experiences because I learned how to like be a better, you know, sports information director or an assistant SID like I was and am at Jessup. And having experienced that and then getting a little more dose of work like I did get at Jessup and then getting a bigger dose in the full-time role at Menlo, it definitely helped. And there wasn't really too many difficult people at Menlo because it was one of those things like I came in and it was just you hit the ground running. You didn't have time to deal with difficult people and all that. It was just you're here, you're going. Let's do this.
Quick question: was it that guy that was on the phone before one of our basketball games, our women's basketball games? That was
A home game
uh,
for us.
William Jessup. Was it that guy that was calling you, like asking for help about something, like files or stuff? I don't know.
Um, I honestly don't remember. It could have been, but yeah.
I don't remember if it was a student worker or is like your your actual coworker?
That was who was that? I think that was a student worker who just had a question about something. Yeah, no, he's actually a senior now. That's Josh. He's awesome. I'm working with him again this year at Jessup, so I'm stoked on that. I love Josh.
Before we move on, besides RB and Aaron, who are both kind of your colleagues and one is your boss, top 3 people to talk to in the athletic department.
At Menlo? All right. Who? Okay, man. Gotta give a major shout out to Kelsey. She was awesome. Because like my area where I sat in my desk, there wasn't a lot of action going on. So like I didn't get to see a lot of faces. So like when Aaron introduces me and like I'm showing up for my first day, this is after interviews, like I've already got the job. He walks me to my desk and was like, I'm like around the corner. I'm like, sweet, like there's hella cubicles here. Like I'm gonna be vibing with all these people. But then like I'm walking in and I'm like, where is everybody? And then Aaron's like, this is your desk. And my desk is literally in the back corner. And then I kind of stand up and I look and I'm like, there's nobody here. Like, whatever. And then like one of the days, like Kelsey walked in. I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? I'm like, I'm all excited to have someone to talk to. So Coach Kelsey, she's dope. 3. Ooh, okay. Ooh. Okay, let's see.
It's really tough because you guys are in the corner with what was that? Sports Performance, and then Kelsey.
Yeah. Oh, Vic's dope. Vic is dope. And then I'm so bad with names, and it's been a while since I've been at Menlo. Forgive me. Oh, this is gonna kill me. Baseball coach. Why can't I think of his name? The dude is amazing.
Yeah, which one? The assistant one or?
No, head coach. Oh my gosh, this is making me so upset.
Funny fact, Chris Rocha, our baseball coach was mowing like the baseball field one day. This was like not funny, but like it was just not like you couldn't laugh at it. So he's mowing the lawn, and the lawnmower gets stuck, and he reaches under, finger gets cut off right away. So was it his pointer or was it his middle finger? I forget. I think it's it was one of his fingers on his right hand, and we were like, "Wait, what? Your got cut off? What? How? Why?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's not the blade." I'm like, "What?" I said, I know who you're talking about, the head coach for Menlo College.
Oh my goodness, dude! I gotta pull this up. This is making me upset. I'm googling it right now.
I think the assistant coach was pretty funny. I forget his name too, but he also coaches JV baseball as well. Obviously, you got to give a shout out to JMO before they moved to US.
Oh, another brilliant mind. Awesome guy.
Zlatan, or sorry, Coach Z. Can't say not Zlatan.
Coach Z. So he was the one on my first Zoom meeting with Menlo. I didn't really know how to operate Zoom other than to log onto the meeting. And I look and I see him. He had a Stanley Hudson from The Office as his background, and I was like, okay, like I like this.
Coach Z was a good person to talk to, sir. Just because right next to Aaron is easy conversation because he's.
Oh, Carry On. All I had to do was see his face and I knew. Coach John Carry On. Dude, that guy is he's just a character. So, like, there was one night and we had just wrapped up, I don't remember if it was volleyball or like a late night of basketball or something like that. We just finally get back to the office. We're getting ready to grind out like the videos and the post-game story and social media. And so we're all kind of like stressing back there. Well, then Coach Carry On gets back, and oh man, that guy is just be ready for the F-bombs and everything. That dude is just such a character, though. Like he's so much fun to talk to. And then I remember there was a game against let's say it was against Ottawa. He did not agree with one of the calls, and I had to turn off the broadcasting mic because his audio was picking up where we were at behind home plate. In another case of just the F-bombs to the officials, and it was hilarious. But I was like, oh, all right, got to turn the mic off.
From that game?
What's that?
Thrown from that game? Thrown out.
What?
Was he thrown out from that?
No, he didn't. The ump was just like, John, I'm sick of it, and just pointed like, go to the dugout, go on timeout, get out of here. Didn't
That's,
have time to throw him out.
Carry On was a character. I didn't talk to him as much, but he was funny.
He
Uh,
said, well, I mean, his desk was supposed to be like right. It was my desk, RB's desk, and then John's. But the thing was, RB up until like actually we never truly had a day where we were in the office together because he was still with admissions while like he was transitioning over, and he unfortunately was never able to complete the transition while I was there. So John was the closest person to me. So like if I ever saw John walk in, I'm like, all right, push pause on work. It's story time with John. Like, what's he gonna say to me today?
That's funny. All right, Kris, you got favorite teams?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna move on to our next little subject here. I see you have the Raiders flag behind you in a little plushie.
Yep.
Fair assumption is that's your NFL team, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been born and raised as a Raider fan. I started like actually watching football the year after the Raiders lost the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers. I had an idea of what was going on. Like I knew who John Gruden was and that they traded him away to the team that beat him in the Super Bowl. But like I didn't really start like sitting with my dad and watching games until that year. So I am kind of impressed with myself in a way that I'm still a fan because I've sat through so many just not just awful games, but just years of crap. Um, but then I got involved obviously as a journalist. So like, yeah, I it's like I'm not gonna hide it. Looking like behind me, go on my social media. Like I'm not gonna hide the fact that yes, I am a fan of the team, but I definitely know how to be level-headed and not so one-sided on things.
Yeah. Is there any other sports that you follow or teams or player specific?
Yeah, so with the NBA, I grew up as a Kings fan, probably up until about 2012, 2013-ish. And that was when Jimmer Fredette was a senior at BYU. And I just kind of decided, because even at that point, I was just fed up with the Kings, not just the fact that they sucked because they lose every year, but like, because organizationally, they literally are a joke and they continue to be a joke. I think they're just a pathetically run team from top to bottom. Um, that I was just kind of like, you know what, wherever Jimmer goes, like that's going to be my team. Well, ironically, the Bucks draft him, the Kings draft Bismack Biyombo, and they do a draft day trade. Fredette winds up on the Kings, and I'm like, well, that's easy. I guess I'm a Kings fan again. And then Fredette just kind of bounced around, and I was just a fan of kind of wherever he was at in his career. So for now, I just kind of adopted like I like certain players and I kind of follow that team. So like I definitely love watching the NBA, but right now I'm obsessed with Duncan Robinson, and so I was bummed to see them lose the finals. But Duncan Robinson and Damian Lillard are definitely my favorite players right now. So I watch a lot of Blazers and a lot of Heat.
All right.
And then for other teams, every year I say I'm gonna watch more hockey, but I don't, and I feel bad about that. And I've been told that it's one of those things like you got to go to a game. Once you go to a game, like you're hooked. So hopefully things open up and I can go like catch a Sharks game or something like that. Um, so I don't really have a favorite hockey team, but definitely an A's fan. And I think every year, so I started legitimately watching baseball in 2012 when they lost to the Tigers. So that sucked in the playoffs. Um, and I would say like every year I've gradually like increased the amount of games I watched. And with this being a shortened year, there's 60 games. I would say I probably actually sat down and watched at least like 50 of them. And so I was really invested this year as a fan. And to lose so quick, it just sucked because they were doing so great. And then Chapman gets hurt, and then Jake Lamb came in and did great. But this season, you could just tell, you could just kind of see the wheel start to sputter. So yeah, and then just even looking back on that recent history, and then even like just studying the A's, looking back, like understanding like that heartbreak is a common thing every year. So it's just like they suckered me in now. So I'm a fan with a broken heart.
Well, that's a perfect segue to our next little topic, which is going to be some news and updates. So we're going to first talk about the MLB. Let's just first think, what's your predictions, or not predictions first, let's see, what do you think the A's should do in the offseason right now?
Oh man, I I think that they gotta to anchor down on starting pitching. That was an area in some games that of why they would fall behind, and luckily they had the bats that could get them back into games. But it was ironic because it was their bullpen that was so effective for the majority of the year. So I think a lot of it comes down to starting pitching. If you could lock in some guys that could go more than 4 innings, that's great, because then you're not relying on your back end so much. And then when you do need to rely on them, you only need them to get maybe 6 to 9 outs, not over half the game. So that's kind of where I am on that. As far as free agency goes, I'm not entirely sure on like who's available and who the A's may or may not be losing. Everyone knows that they don't spend money. So Billy Bean though isn't there. That kind of bummed me out. He's doing other ventures. So who knows? And even then, I'm not aware of what their budget looks like. I know there's that saying from the movie. There's rich teams and there's poor teams, and then there's 50 miles of crap, and then there's us. So we always know the A's don't always have a lot of money to go spend anyways.
Okay. By any chance, do you catch the World Series and Dodgers winning their first championship since '88?
Yeah, I did see some of that. It was, for me, it was kind of one of those, once the A's were knocked out, I was so just defeated that I wasn't really necessarily tuning in to watch. I was getting just updates on Twitter and whatnot. More so just rooting against whoever the Astros were playing. But it was nice to see that, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Dodgers, I don't hate them like Giants fans do. I'll be honest, their fans can be really annoying. So, I mean, but it had obviously been a while, so it was cool to see them win. And Mookie Betts is just, that dude is so much fun to watch, and he's so good for the game, so young, and yeah, he's a terrific player. So he was definitely fun to watch because that guy dominated down the stretch.
Yeah, he did. It was one of those players that was probably key for them winning that World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And you said like the A's are not like that, so you don't think the A's will ever like pull the trigger and get some type of big trade or some big signing?
I doubt it. It's just not really their mantra of how they do things. Unfortunately.
Right, so, let's move on to the NBA. I don't know if you've been following the draft or anything, but we were talking about the NBA draft last week and how some of the top players, which we originally predicted like back in June when the draft was supposed to happen, have been falling. Micah, who was that one guy which fell?
James Wiseman. James
Yeah.
from, like, 3.
From Memphis, right?
He fell from number 3 all the way to number 9. So did Anthony Edwards. He fell from number 2 all the way to number 7 or 6. I haven't checked the updated list. But where do you see that Ball brother going?
Dude, that is the ultimate wild card. Okay, so who's picking for it? Doesn't Minnesota have like multiple top picks?
We know Minnesota has the first one, followed by Golden State, and then I forgot who was third.
Charlotte. Charlotte has
Charlotte.
We don't even need to get past one, because I call me crazy. I think that's where he's going to end up going. I just have this feeling that, even though it's 2 different sports here, but stay with me, because I just get this vibe that it's going to turn into like this Baker Mayfield thing, where like it's like not Baker, not Baker, not Baker, not Baker, and then boom, he gets slapped in the face, and you're like, Baker Mayfield? I think that's what it's going to be.
Wow.
Okay.
It's going to be, they're going to want to sell tickets eventually when they can. They're going to want the merchandise sales, all that. And yeah.
There are talks.
Go ahead.
There are talks that Detroit is going to go all the way into kind of make that trade. Them and New York, obviously. New York does want LaMelo for some odd reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Those 2 teams are looking to make their way to the top. Do you think we're going to see a surprise trade like that?
Do I think we'll see I wouldn't be surprised at all because it's almost like every year there is some sort of move that's made that's kind of like, whoa, like, because it's so hard to get into the mind of a GM because so many times it's almost like when you're doing like a fantasy draft in basketball or football where you're so zeroed in on like your guy. That's how these guys get in real life. So they get so focused in on their guy that they do pull the trigger. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a team like Detroit or whoever it may be that sees that guy that they want that they just can't pass up and they got to make sure they get him.
As long as we don't have a 2014 repeat of someone like Anthony Bennett being a bust at number one for some odd reason, and they draft someone that doesn't deserve to be number one. As long as you don't see that, be totally fine. Let's move into the NBA free agency as well as coaching positions. We talked about this before you came on. Mike D'Antoni is now the assistant coach at the Brooklyn Nets. Coach Doc Rivers is with Philly, right, Chris? Philly, right?
Yes, Phillies.
Van Gundy is the coach for the Pelicans. The Thunder's coach, not Brad Stevens. What is his name? Billy Donovan doesn't have a. Wait, did he left, right?
They had like a mutual like parting of ways, and I don't know if he was picked up.
Yeah,
Ty Lue is now the Clippers' new head coach.
Yeah,
just with all this,
I'm excited to see Clippers.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. I just want to go right here. Like, why are you excited to see them? Like, we just have like a superstar like coach with Doc Rivers.
Like I think Doc Rivers. I think he'll still have success with what he does, but when I think of like his last like when he was with the Boston 3 party with when you had Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rondo, and all that, I think his style I definitely think of a little bit more old school. And when I think of the big 3 that he had, even throwing in Rondo into the mix, they definitely put off that vibe of that that old school like basketball mantra. Whereas when I think of like what we have in today's more modern setting, Tyronn Lue comes off as a much more of like this is a broad term, but people use it all the time, is like a player's coach.
Yeah.
And I think that the guys on the team are going to respond a lot better to that. Whereas, and there's nothing wrong with it, but Doc Rivers comes off as more of like a hard nosed, like bullish, like this is how we're doing things, we're doing it my way, this and that. Where I feel like Tyronn Lue, having played in the NBA, I mean, I'm pretty sure Doc Rivers did too, but like on a more recent basis, even I just feel like has just that stronger connection and understanding of the modern game that I think that's going to work well with the team that he's got in LA.
Well, there are some talks as like now the LA Clippers are back in contention, but in reality, you have, I'll just name it off, Pacific Northwest. You have the Trailblazers with Damon McCollum. You also have the Warriors, Clay, Draymond, and Steph coming back. Well, I almost forgot his name. You have
plus a top pick,
and their top pick, and you have the guys that are sharing this or formerly sharing the same building, literally like across the road. The Lakers. You have the Nuggets. You have the Jazz. You have Devin Booker.
Oh, it's loaded.
The West is loaded. So how true is that actual statement to, the Clippers are back in contention within the West?
Yeah, I think contention might be a little much just because based on the fact that the West is so loaded. Because like, and I'll come out and say the Kings suck, but even there's like the diehard Kings fans that would be like, oh, you got to throw the Kings in there. They're good for an 8 seed. They say that every year, but it's like they do have respectable talent, and I don't care who you put on the court with De'Aaron Fox. You got a guy like that on the court, like he's gonna compete. He's a great player. He does it all. So even when you look at your quote unquote bottom feeders like the Kings, Suns of recently up until like going undefeated in the bubble and they missed the playoffs and all that, I felt terrible for them. But even when you look at the quote unquote bottom feeders, like they've got loads of talent and you can't just 4 years ago looking at a game against the Kings or the Suns, I don't care who you are. You look at that game on your schedule, oh, that's a dub. That's a dub. You can't even do that anymore. And those are the teams that aren't even making the playoffs. So like to say that the Clippers are like oh yeah, they're in title contention or whatever for the West. That I think that is a little bit much, but anytime you have Kawhi Leonard on your team, though, like you can have that discussion.
Oh yeah, not with playoff P. Not with playoff P.
No,
On your team. So let's
pandemic P.
P. Let's move on to some NFL news. First, I kind of want to get your Week 9 predictions with this coming Thursday. We have the Packers versus 49ers. I mean, obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle are both out. So what do you think there on that Thursday night game? What do you think is going to happen?
So if that game were being played on a Sunday, I would say blowout city, Packers, like it's going to get ugly. Packers win. But being on a Thursday, it definitely throws a wrench. Both teams are affected by it. They have less time to prepare, and it's kind of one of those. It's hard to determine like who is going to be affected by that more, because your whole schedule gets thrown into whack of when you do different installs for your team, seeing the training staff, and plus you're dealing with COVID and all that. So like, who's the away team?
The away team is Green Bay. 49ers are at home.
Yeah, so like that's another thing that definitely works obviously into the favor of the Niners is with the beast that is COVID-19, they don't have to worry about traveling. Everything is business as usual. You go home, you go to work, that's that. And it's a short week for the Packers. I still think the Packers win. I'll say they win like 27-13. But if this were a game on like a Sunday where you do get that full week of preparation, we're in Lambeau and you don't have to go, I would take them by like 20 plus. But I think being a short week, it will play into the favor of the Niners a little bit, but it's kind of one of those like backup quarterback. You don't have your number one throwing option. So you are working with a depleted wide receiving corps, backup tight ends, all that. I know a slew of their running backs were hurt. So I think that'll play into the Niners' favor a little bit, but it's kind of one of those, how much can they ball control against the Packers?
Okay, I'll move on to, Mikey, you got something?
I was just going to continue on with the schedule.
Yeah, I was going to bring up probably one of the bigger games. It's going to be next week. I'm just going to go Sunday night. Saints versus Tampa Bay. So we got Drew Brees versus Tom Brady yet again. What do you see in that matchup right there?
I'm taking Tom Brady. The Buccaneers offense is like, they're starting to come into their own, and it's scary. And then they add Antonio Brown to the mix of what they already have, and it's like, sheesh, like, do they need more weapons? The answer is no, but it's like, if you can take them, of course, why not? Time and age clearly does not affect Tom Brady or Gronkowski, apparently. And I think they remind me a lot of kind of like what the Rams did when they lost in the Super Bowl to the Patriots a few years ago, where they just went all in that year. And it almost worked. They got to the Super Bowl. They just didn't win. I feel like that's what the Buccaneers are doing. And it's in even stronger sense because the guys they're getting are so much older. But right now it's working because their offense is on fire. I think they're the number one offense in football right now. And that's what you need to win games. You need points, and that's what they're putting up. So I'll definitely take the Bucks in that one.
Chris, you don't mean that, do you? Not against my Saints, dude. Hey.
I'm sorry, man. Drew Brees, he still looks good, but like I feel like this year the age is starting to show.
Drew Brees just got the touchdown record yesterday, passing Tom Brady, but we know Tom Brady's playing tonight on Monday. They're just going to keep passing. We'll probably see each other breaking the record back and forth next Sunday night. So that'll be one key game. Then another question. So we got the Jets 0-8 so far this season. They're facing the Patriots. And then we also have the 7-0 Steelers facing – who are they facing?
Dallas.
What was that? Dallas, yes. Do you think either of those would get a 1 in that 0 column? Get rid of that donut this week.
I don't think so. The Jets are one of the worst teams I've seen step on a football field, and that's coming from a lifelong Raiders fan. So I've seen some bad football. They look bad. In Dallas, man, if they had a quarterback, even Andy Dalton, I would like to think that maybe they have a chance. But after watching what I watched last night, and I think his name was Ben DiNucci, sounds more of like an Italian chef, not an NFL quarterback. That looked bad. That was first off, that was just an awful Sunday night game. If it weren't for fantasy football, I wouldn't have been watching. And I think I won my fantasy game off of that defensive touchdown they got at the end, so that was cool.
Nice.
But yeah, as long as Ben DiNucci or even their backup right now, Garrett Gilbert, if it's either one of them, no. And Raider fans, at least real Raider fans, know about Garrett Gilbert. He was been a practice squad, third string, fourth string quarterback for the Raiders for quite a while. Had a little run in like the AAFL or the XFL, one of the two. He's kind of been a career backup his whole career. So yeah, either one of those guys, I don't give the Cowboys any chance.
Okay, and now you've probably been right about this or know a lot about this, but the Raiders versus the Chargers. You think Raiders are going to keep on winning right now, or you think the Chargers with rookie sensation Justin Herbert going to pull off?
I definitely think that there's a strong possibility the Chargers win. I mean, Vegas, not like Vegas Raiders, but like the casinos, Vegas, whatever, the gambling side, they have the Chargers, I think, at a 2-point favorite.
It's right now 1.5.
Okay, yeah, so it's shifting a little bit, but they're still favored. So that tells you something. But with how successful the Raiders have been as far as ball control and just eating time up off the clock, like it seriously didn't even feel like the Browns touched the ball in the second half, even though they had the first possession. The Raiders just were so effective when it came to time of possession. I feel like if they're able to do that against the Chargers, they'll come away victorious, but it's easier said than done because the Raiders have a pathetic defense. And the only reason why they looked halfway decent against the Browns was because the weather was so bad that contributed to a lot of dropped passes, a lot of just bad passes, because Carr had a few that got away because of the wind. He had a guy open downfield, but then the wind just carries the ball an extra 20 yards. And that happened to Baker Mayfield a lot. So the weather definitely made the Raiders defense look better than they are. And the Chargers have been putting up points. I think it's like 3 straight games they've put up 30 plus. So if the Raiders offense can continue to eat the time up in, it's not even like turnovers. If the Raiders could just force like more than 3 punts, then they've got a really good shot. But ultimately, to me, it comes down to time of possession and what defense of the Raiders is going to decide to show up. But I think I'll say the Raiders win, but I'll say whoever has the ball last on offense is going to win the game.
Yeah, 100%. You're with me. Knock on wood, you're with me. So kind of 2 notable games during week 2 and week 5. The Raiders played the Saints, and in week 5 they played the Chiefs. Were you shocked at the outcome of those 2 games?
I was more shocked at the Chiefs game because, like, going into the Saints game, they didn't have Michael Thomas, and Drew Brees is starting to show his age. So I was like confident that like it was going to be a game. At least like maybe the Raiders lose by 10, and maybe they win by 3 type thing. I was like, they're going to be in it. The Chief game, I wrote an article for Silver and Black today, basically listing out just the facts that Derek Carr has not been a good quarterback against Kansas City, and the numbers show that. And here's why. And I kind of listed it out. But then I ended it with like, but that said, that's not saying as a quarterback he's bad. And then I listed the reasons why the Raiders, or how they could potentially, pull the upset. And it was kind of one of those, like, the offense essentially in baseball terms has to pitch a perfect game, because I don't care if you throw the 85 Bears out there, Patrick Mahomes is still going to throw for 5 touchdowns and be Patrick Mahomes. And Carr did have an early interception, and the Raiders were down like 14-3 early, and I was just kind of watching like, dang it, like this is gonna happen. Another long Sunday, and then it was just like, I don't know if it was Gruden or what, but someone slapped him in the face, and then they woke up. And then the offense just came to play, and the defense forced a few timely stops, and the Raiders somehow pulled the upset. So that was the one that definitely shocked me, because at that point in time, there was like a 5-week stretch where I was like, this is the toughest slate of games the Raiders have, because now the back end of the schedule is relatively easy, moving past the Browns, to where once they got that victory against the Chiefs, that's when I started to believe, as a fan and a journalist, that all right, like playoffs aren't out of the question now. Like, it may have not been the prettiest win, but you just beat the Super Bowl champion with the best, just not even quarterback, but football player we've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Well, being a Saints fan, I wasn't surprised at the week 2 loss. I was just more surprised at how we lost. It was like we're getting outran and outpassed, and our defense is super young. Our Saints defense is super young, so I wasn't surprised by the loss. But the Chiefs win, I was very surprised. I thought Patrick Mahomes would have showed up that game or in the back half.
Mm-hmm.
He always does. But good on you guys. Yeah. You guys are what, third or second in the AFC West?
Let's see. The Raiders are 4-3. Yeah, they're in
They're
second. They're in
second.
second. Yeah, because you got the Broncos and the Chargers behind them.
You guys are right there. I mean, there is still
And
contention.
with the expansion of the playoffs and the talent that they've improved with from last year, there's no reason that the Raiders should not. They're one game out of the last spot to get in the playoffs. So there's no excuses. And say they were in that 7th spot right now, they would be playing the Chiefs in the first playoff game.
Oh yeah,
because it'd be the Steelers who get the bye.
Okay. Then speaking of playoffs, right now, what is your early Super Bowl prediction? We're about halfway through the season, so
Steelers against
Tampa Brady.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh man, I want to say Aaron Rodgers, but Tom Brady, man,
Okay.
Steelers, Bucks.
Steelers, Bucks.
I hate to say that because as a Raiders fan, that just pains me because it's like even though I wasn't alive for it, the history with the Immaculate Reception and all that against the Steelers, and then you go to the Bucks, it's like they're the ones that kick the Raiders' butt in the Super Bowl, and then to put the cherry on top, Tom Brady with the tuck rule and all that, he's with the Bucks.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
It's like that's the matchup, but just with the way things are going right now, they look unstoppable.
I want to go on a quick tangent. You just brought up the tuck rule. How does that, if someone brings up non-Raiders fan, does that hurt you still, or?
Oh well, yeah. I mentioned my buddy Jacob Miller earlier. He's a diehard Patriots fan through and through, and I think every time I've seen him, I've known him since 2014, so I've known him now for 6 going on 7 years. I kid you not, every single time I see him, he brings it up. And if it doesn't come up naturally in the conversation, he's in a wheelchair, so when he rolls away, he'll roll away and look at me and be like, "It was a fumble," and then he'll just be on his way. I'm like,
Chris, who do you have going for the Super Bowl?
Yes, Chris?
Yeah. Yes, Chris Rocha. Thank you.
We just answer it.
Like, where's Micah been?
I gotta say, Chiefs have been looking dominant. I feel like they're going to go and repeat their AFC conference crowns. And I'm going to go with the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers has been looking really good. He had some bad games, but we also seen that they're out the running back for the past couple of weeks. But I think Aaron Rodgers has really fit into the system Matt LaFleur has brought to Green Bay. And I think that's going to help them go deep in the playoffs.
I have
What about you, Micah?
I have Steelers.
In the Saints.
No, because from the past 4 years, we've gotten screwed by a rookie DB who couldn't make an actual tackle in the last game against Minnesota. We got screwed by a PI call that wasn't called against the Rams. Last year, I don't know what.
Yep.
And then with Drew Brees' old age, Michael Thomas not playing, and just everything has to go on Alvin Kamara's back. I don't see the Saints actually making it past probably the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I hate saying that Tom Brady is going to make another fucking Super Bowl because I do hate him. But it's between him and Seattle.
Oh, yeah. MVP
I mean,
Russ
dude,
right now.
Dangerous, man. That guy is a beast.
Him.
I just don't think their defense is good enough to last in the playoffs.
Their offense is so high caliber. I mean, with DK Metcalf on the outside, he can do anything just for how big he was, and especially with fucking play against Arizona when they got the pick at like at the 2, and you literally ran out for 88 yards and tackled them at the 5 or the 4. I'm like, that guy is special, and if you can isolate him and have Russ and him be on the same connection, God, they're unstoppable. But it's between Tampa and Seattle versus the Steelers. Steelers is number 1 out of the AFC for me.
Yeah.
So
the thing with they haven't had a losing season under Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, that is
like they're just such a. My dad and I were talking about this the other. They're just such a well put together and run organization. Also, the fact that I always got to touch on this with the Steelers because it's just year in and year out it holds true, and it's held true since like the early 2000s, and you probably could even go back before that. But that out of any NFL team knows how to draft receivers. Because you look at where guys were drafted, like Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, they were late round guys. And then you look at guys they have on their roster now that are young rookies that are just killing it.
Juju Smith. Chase
Wasn't he like a
Claypool.
third rounder?
Juju was a late second.
Late second. Okay. Either way, though. But still, like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. You have a James Conner who's late second as well. They're fantastic.
Love that guy's story.
Le'Veon Bell before that.
Yep. Big Ben lasting since what, 2003, 2004?
04.
I mean, he's playing at least till I say 25 years. That's just me. I think he's playing for 25 years and then ending it.
Big Ben.
Wow.
Phillip Rivers is best.
I think Big Ben is nearing the end. I think it's one of those like if they win the Super Bowl, I could see him retiring. But if they don't, I could see him going for another year or two.
I almost have the same thought right there.
Well, with
I feel like he's got 3 more years.
Okay. With every guest we have them rank a set of players on a list that I do not come up with. I find them on Bleacher Report. Do not criticize me. I don't.
Micah, it's my job to criticize you.
No, I find these players on Bleacher Report or whatever other listing site that there is, and we're gonna have you list the top 10. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 actual players, but they're listed, and some of them are tied for a spot. So I'm just gonna have you list your top 10 from this list of Oakland Raiders players of all time. But before we do that, I have one fucking question. Where the fuck?
Okay.
Where is Bo Jackson on this list? I don't understand why he's not the best of all time on the Raiders. Where the fuck is he?
Yeah, so I saw that when you were sending me stuff over for the podcast, and I saw that, and then I read the list, and then I went back and I reread that because that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't know if I would have had him at number 1, but like top 3, top 5, like come on, and then it's like you disrespect him that much to where he's not even on there. Like I saw a thing, Nick Wright, he came out and he had something of like, oh, the stats they don't want you to know about Bo Jackson, and he had all these numbers, but like, yeah, he had his good arguments, but like it's almost like you got to go back to kind of like, for instance, again to relate this to baseball in Snell on the Rays, you got to go by the eye test. Sometimes numbers lie to you, and like just like they should have kept him in pitching in that game 6. Look at the tape and watch Bo Jackson and tell me, like, come on, really, you're gonna feel that way? Like Nick Wright, get out of here.
For me,
So I need to
for me, he's a top 5
go ahead.
on this list.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So let's start with number 10, and then we'll go down from there. So 10 to 1.
Oh, all right. This is so hard. Okay, so number 10, off this list that I'm looking at, we'll go Jim Plunkett. And some people would be upset because, you know, he 2-time Super Bowl champ and all that. But I don't know. Just on a personal level, I don't even really know how much his stats differentiate. But, like, when I think of, like, a Raider, I think of Kenny Stabler. I don't think of Jim Plunkett. There's a part of me that's like, dang it, I wish Stabler had the 2 Super Bowls and Plunkett had one. But just style-wise and everything, like, Stabler, I don't know. I like him. But it's like you can't deny the fact that Plunkett has the Super Bowls and stuff. So we'll throw Plunkett down at 10.
Okay.
At 9, let's see here. Real quick, I'll just throw this out there. I probably won't have Marcus Allen on there. I respect the hell out of the guy, but I'm like a Al Davis truther, and him and Al Davis always beefed with each other. So it's like if I'm picking sides, I'm picking sides with Al Davis. So Marcus Allen is off my list. But at 9, we'll throw Howie Long on there. That guy he's obviously a beast, and it's awesome to see how his family and his sons are, you know, NFL players themselves. So that's 9. Let's see here. 8. We'll go Dave Casper, goes to the post. You're definitely on the list when you've got a play that's not only associated to you, but like the franchise as a whole. So goes to the post. That was wait. Okay, was that 8? Did I say 8? Okay,
That
so
was
we're
8.
at 8. So we're at 7 now. So 7 and 6, I'll do kind of one in the same. Gene Upshaw, Art Shell, no particular order. Hall of Fame O lineman. Art Shell obviously coached the Raiders too. Had a terrible stint in more recent history when the Raiders had Jamarcus Russell and Andrew Walter in through those crap years. So that was 7-6, right? 7-6.
Yep.
So okay, so 7-6. So now we're at the top 5. Top 5. Okay, I gotta look at this because I don't want to get this screwed up. Okay, so at 5,
Chris.
I'll go Willie Brown.
Wait, your number 6 was Art Shell, right?
Yes.
Okay, then your number 5
Either
Is
yeah. In 5, we'll go Willie Brown.
okay.
Old man Willie, dominant cornerback.
Number 4.
So now we're at number 4, and dang. So this is off the. I can only go off this list though, right?
No, we'll let you add a couple of Raider players.
Okay,
I'm allowed.
because I am a huge Lester Hayes guy. Like Lester Hayes is like the stickum and like yeah, he's rad. Dang. Okay, so I could add guys. You know what? I might have to do some tweaking to this because
Sorry, they're even in stone.
because Jim Plunkett's on there. So that's okay. But if we're not, so that Lester Hayes was 4.
3.
Okay, so 3 would be that. Now is where I'll put in. Well, okay, Bo Jackson's not on here, so I can't go there. So I'll go.
This really changed the game here.
This is where. Oh man, see, this is tough because normally I would go like Ken Stabler right here at 3,
Okay.
and then I would go Jack Tatum 2, Fred Biletnikoff 1. But then it's like I'm leaving. Oh, this just kills me because then like Cliff Branch, where the hell's Cliff Branch at? Like he's got to be on there, and then you have guys like that aren't on here like Lyle Alzado. So this is a tough one to just talk my way through it. Oh, and Tim Brown. Okay. Wow. So, Micah, can you do me a solid here and read me who I had at 10, 9, and 8?
Jim Plunkett, and then you had Howie Long, and then you had Dave Casper.
We're swapping. I'm sorry, we gotta swap Casper and Tim Brown. I can't leave Tim Brown off this. Sorry, Dave Casper.
All right.
Dude, this is tough.
Probably one of our toughest, because usually we go for 20. Usually we go for 20, but like now I had 10, and I'm like, this is really tough. Like I know some of these guys, and like this is not easy. And I mean, without the addition of Bo Jackson, it just made it a little bit harder.
I'm so surprised they don't have Charles Woodson.
Yeah, and what, dude? See, that's.
I don't know why.
Like I don't know where you get these lists from, Micah.
Okay, so Micah, here's what I'm gonna do. I know I just kind of had a lot of just words that just came out of my mouth, and you might have the list of the words that did come out. What I'm gonna do is when we're done here, I'm gonna dissect this list on the document you gave me, and then I'm gonna make 2 lists. I'm gonna do a top 10 out of the list that I currently have that you sent me, which is missing a ton of great people, and then I'll tweet at you guys. Then I will have my true top 10 of all Raiders considered.
So, number 3.
What was that, Micah?
What's your number 3?
Did I list it?
No, you have.
He kind of did, but I can't remember.
Oh, okay, wait. So read me who I have now.
So you have Jim Plunkett 10, Howie Long 9, Tim Brown 8, Gene Upshaw 7, Art Shell 6, Willie Brown 5, and then Lester Hayes 4, and you're missing 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1. I got Tim Brown on there though.
Yeah, he is
Okay.
7, 8.
Oh, okay, yeah. So 3 was the one I was gonna pull off my own list, but I won't. I'll just keep it in house. We'll keep it here. Okay, so number 1 I had is Fred Biletnikoff. Number 2, Ken Stabler. And then you know what? Put Tim Brown at 3, and then you could reinsert Casper where Brown was. I just feel so disrespectful to like Jack Tatum, Lester Hayes.
Yep.
And all these Raiders that aren't on there.
So you have. I mean, I probably didn't catch it. I thought you were just talking through your words.
Yeah, I kind of was.
I didn't know if you actually had that as your list, but okay. So we have Fred Biletnikoff at number 1, Ken Stabler at 2. Number 3 is Tim Brown. 4, Lester Hayes. 5, Willie Brown. 6, Art Shell. 7, Gene Upshaw. 8, Dave Casper. 9, Howie Long, and 10, Jim Plunkett. God,
Okay, so you can scratch off Lester Hayes because he's not on the list you gave me. And oh yeah, see, I didn't even list Jim Otto. Jim Otto's on there way before, in my opinion, Shell and Upshaw. So put Jim Otto where Hayes was, because that's top 5, right?
So that's 4.
4, yeah. Little tangent. Jim Otto is awesome too because I was in a car accident my senior year of high school, and I ended up being in the same hospital at the same time that Jim Otto was. And walking around, I got to see him. I don't remember it because I had a concussion, but there's a picture of it.
So you're leaving off Marcus Allen.
So it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. You're leaving off Marcus Allen, Cliff Branch, and Ten Hendricks from this list.
Yeah. I mean, like, I really, on just pure bias, I want to swap Branch for Plunkett, but it's like, he's a Super Bowl QB, bro. Like, come on. And Branch is, that's so hard. Marcus Allen was easy to leave off just because beefing with Al Davis. It's like, all right, I'll side with Davis on that one. But like,
We got time. I mean, you can do your top 10 right here.
I'm gonna leave it how it is, and I need to on a personal level. I just need to be able to invest more time into this because this is tough.
We have our boss from Stanford coming in this coming Thursday. We have the
Ooh,
49er team of all.
there we go. All time, dude. That's gonna be so tough.
We have like the top 10 of the list that I got from Bleacher Report. Won't share that list.
Because like, who do you do number one there? Like, do you go with like Jerry Rice, or is it like a Joe Montana thing?
Yeah, they don't. Okay, the funny thing is they don't even have Dwight Clark in like the top 10. And it's like he's like in the top 25. I'm like, wow, okay.
I agree with that, honestly, as a 49ers fan.
But Kris, do you have anything else to say for our podcast today?
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciated it. You guys are the best, and Micah, it pains me that I'm not your direct supervisor anymore, man. I miss working with you.
I miss working at Menlo too. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while. But if you will, we would like to have you on a future episode.
Probably right before playoffs.
Right before playoffs.
Yeah, well, we could talk Raiders football as they march on into January playoff football.
I'm down. With that being said, guys, please subscribe to our channel. Push the post notification button right next to the subscribe channel. Like and share this video, as well as put out any articles that you want us to comment on in different episodes in the near future. With that being said, guys, see you guys next time.